Welcome back to Kernel Crash Out. I am your host, Brodie Robertson. Honestly, at this point, I could make this a series because it seems to be weekly, bi-weekly occurrence at this point. Fortnightly? We'll go with fortnightly because bi-weekly can mean twice a week because people are weird with words. Anyway, in all seriousness, a week does not go by without some level of Linux kernel drama. And today, it's with somebody who stepped away from the kernel already, was done doing kernel development, done doing upstreaming, but came back for one last hurrah. Asahi Lina. I'll say this at the start. Please, if you see this, for your own mental health, take a holiday. Stop interacting with the kernel, because this is going to happen again if you do it again. All of this began with a patch set submitted by Danilo Crumridge, DRM Rust Abstractions. This is a series for the initial DRM Rust abstractions, including DRM Device Driver, IOCTL, File, and Gem Object abstractions. This series has been posted previously, however, that is a long time ago, and I reworked a lot of things quite heavily, hence I decided to post this as a whole new series. Besides the rework, I want to credit Lina for her initial work, which this series is based on. Already off to a good start, being very respectful for the initial work this is based on. In a private mail, Lina told me to feel free to take anything that's useful from my past submissions or the downstream branches and submit it in any way. Lina, if you however feel uncomfortable with any of the code developed by tags due to the major changes, please let me know. So he's basically saying, hey, I've done a lot of rework here. If you want me to change how the tagging is done, let me know. Happy to do whatever you want. Yeah, if you want to be main author or anything like that, totally fine. Honestly, when I read this first email, I was blindsided by how Lina decided to respond to this, because this is nothing but respectful. No issue whatsoever. I don't even know how you interpret this badly. On that note, here is Lina's response. Initially starting off, fine. I'm wondering why you took over primary authorship for some patches. For example, patch number 3 has you listed as the primary author. Of those 41 lines added, most are comments and reworking registration a bit. I thought the general kernel etiquette is you keep the original author unless you are literally rewriting the majority of the file from scratch. Totally fine so far, just normal kind of query. From here, what I would have said is, hey, could you change the authorship tag to mark me as the primary author? And then that would be the end of the thread. This video would not exist. Instead of that, I'm really tired of kernel politics, and I don't want to spend more brain cycles looking at all the other patches or having to argue. In fact, I usually don't look at patch emails at all recently, but I would appreciate if you keep my authorship for files that I did largely author myself. After everything I've been going through the past weeks, some of the people on CC know what that's about. This feels like yet another slap in the face. Okay, just taking offense to something where someone was willing to fix things up for you, just fine, it's weird, but maybe, I don't know, maybe Lina's tired, this is a weird time of the day, I don't know. One email's fine. So then Danilo responds, the patches did either not exist previously or have been changed extensively. For instance, the patch you're referring to has been split up in 3 different patches, where one of them, patch 2 in this series, has indeed mostly the same code. The other 2, 3, and 4 were modified. As mentioned above, I reorganized patches and changed quite a lot of code. If with this precondition, I would have kept you as primary author, you could have been complaining about me misrepresenting you/your work instead. Now, you could argue that I should have been asking first, right? But in the private email, you told me, as well as other people that have been CC'd as well, the following. Please feel free to take anything that's useful from my patch submissions or the downstream branches and use it/submit it in any way. You said use it or submit it in any way. If you changed your mind on this, that's fine. Please let me know where you'd like to have primary authorship changed and how you'd like it to be. Now, maybe you could argue, oh, Lina read the first post incorrectly and acted aggressively out of turn, but this time, it is crystal clear. If there is anything you have an issue with, let me know what you have an issue with, specifically the things, and I will fix them. I'm not going to argue with you about it. I have better things to do. Let me know what I need to fix, and I will fix it. Again, perfectly good stopping point for the conversation. All you need to say, this patch, one of your primary author on those, other ones don't care. And that's the end of it. No more. No paragraphs, no essays, just that. Let's have a look instead. I thought keeping authorship is an implied part of kernel etiquette. Usually when you submit code someone else wrote, you keep them as primary author. I want you and others to use the code. That doesn't mean I want you to put your name on it as if you wrote most of it. Again, the reason why that was done is Danilo reworked the patch and felt like it was reworked enough to put his name as primary author. But again, if you have a problem with that, let him know what to fix. I don't even know what tree this series is supposed to be applied onto, so I'm just going to take DRM miss/topic/rust DRM and assume that's what this series includes. So I'm diffing the correct thing now, and the result is essentially identical. Meanwhile, device RS has many additions, but a big chunk of those is just code that was moved from DRV-RS, DRM legacy fields, and the code that uses it. Again, I don't have the spoons to make some deep analysis here. You should know how much of the code you changed, added, or just moved around, so I'm not going to litigate further. If you think splitting up a commit into multiple commits and moving code around warrants taking over primary authorship of a project I've been working on for years now, so be it. I'm just disappointed. Again, just let him know what patches need to be changed, and that is all you need to do. Literally the only thing you need to do. No point like arguing about like, oh, this is being said, just let him know the patches to fix, and that's the end of the conversation. At this point, you could literally just say, make me primary author on everything, and that would be the end of it, because Danilo has better things to do than argue about who the author of the patches are. The patches are not changing. The functionality is identical. No one is changing the code. The argument here is who wrote the code. Nobody cares. If you want to be the primary author, that's fine. So back to Danilo. The broader context of the private mail was about you stepping back on kernel development. You did so with a few more details, which I'm not going to disclose, that made it clear to me that you don't want to be bothered with kernel development anymore. In combination with you giving permission to use or submit it in any way, I thought it's better to just pick a safe path to not misrepresent you given all the changes I made. I do still credit you on all corresponding patches though. Like, this is the worst part. Like, the argument isn't even about getting credit. It's about who is marked as primary author versus co-developed. Right? Like, the Lina getting credit for the patches, that was never even up for debate. And regarding those things which looked like they were just copied code, that's mainly just boilerplate. Device.rs changed fundamentally, i.e. I switched the device abstractions to use the subclassing pattern. If you look further, you will find that I really changed a lot of things. I have nothing to hide. Here's the overall diff for all the changes I made. And looking at that diff, anything with a plus is something that was added, anything with a minus is something that was removed. And as you can see, there is quite a lot of pluses, quite a lot of minuses. There is a lot of things that were changed with these patches. You just said you don't have the spoons to make some deep analysis here, and right below, you accuse me of just moving code around, which means that you do so without evidence. And again, I have nothing to hide. See the diff. Besides that, I also told you that I'm fine to change primary authorship. If you tell me where you think it would be appropriate, even though I do think my changes do justify how things are currently. So even though he thinks, yeah, my changes do justify being primary author, I don't care. Just tell me what to change. Regarding the I'm just disappointed, that's where you are maneuvering yourself into. You could have easily just asked me to change things for patch X, Y, Z. Instead, you outright start with accusing me of things. I also feel like you're intentionally trying to misrepresent what I am doing and what my intentions are. I neither have the time, nor am I willing to deal with random drama like this. If you want something changed, go ahead and tell me what, without more drama and without more accusing me of things. Just tell me the thing to change. I don't care. I will make your change. It doesn't matter. Just tell me what to change. Stop making new drama. Stop it. Just stop. Honestly, I have a lot of respect for how Danilo is handling this, because he's basically being accused of trying to steal this code, trying to misrepresent who the author is, trying to steal credit for making these changes. But the entire time, he is willing to change who is marked as the author. No issue with that whatsoever. Isn't going to fight back about it. Will explain, hey, this is why I did this, but is more than happy to move past this because the patch is here. Like, there is no disagreement about the functionality and the usefulness of the patch. The only disagreement is who is marked as the author. That's it. I have no idea why Lina is going guns blazing, throwing hands, trying to look for a fight. It honestly looks like Lina is just trying to stir up drama. I don't know why. I can come up with some ideas for sure. I have no idea the actual reason, but that's what it looks like. Like, there's no drama here. Like, the entire drama here is started by Lina, and Lina is the only one in the drama. And then Lina clapped back with this. Alright, then please remove my authorship entirely from this series, including co-developed by and sign-off lines. What? What are you talking about? Like, the entire time he's willing to make you primary author. And you're like, okay, I don't want to be author anymore. Just throw everything out. I hereby release my code as CC0, which means you don't need the sign-offs. It's yours now. The same applies to any future code submitted that I originally authored as part of the Asahi kernel Git tree. That way, we don't need to argue about any of this. You're the only one arguing. You are literally the only one arguing. You know that gif of the guy who's like talking to a wall? I'll show it on screen right now. That's this conversation right now. I thought asking for patches that I mostly authored to keep my Git authorship would be an uncontroversial request. They did. They literally did. You were marked as co-developed, but you weren't primary author. You were still being credited. And not unreasonable to ask you to figure out which of those are, since you made the changes / splits, and number 3 is clearly one. See, I will grant you this to an extent. If this wasn't 5 emails in, yeah, okay, you can say, well, can you work it out yourself? You made those changes. Like, that's all you had to say early on, and it would have been fine. But, like, you didn't say that. But also, if there are patches that you notice are yours, well, you notice they're yours, so can you just, like, say which ones are yours to save everybody time? But apparently even that gets you flamed on Linux threads these days. Literally, no one is flaming you. You are arguing with a ghost. I don't know what thread you think you're reading. You're the only one doing the flaming. I regret having been part of this community. And now we have another character show up, the one and only Dave Airley, who makes a reference that unless you're in your late 20s or older, you probably don't recognize. Look, this isn't Crank or Speed. There is no need to keep the drama level above 50 to sort this out. This also isn't exactly how best to relicense code, so I think we should abstain from doing anything to help promote more drama. The project will maintain authorship / sign-offs on any patches that are clearly still authored by you. We will err on the side of caution, and on rewritten patches which share some decent amount of history shall retain your authorship. In this case, it does appear instead of putting in the 5 minutes of looking at Danilo's reasoning and supplied diff and either saying, my bad, this is sufficiently new code and I don't feel I wrote it, or I'd still prefer to retain authorship despite your changes, both of which Danilo indicated would be respected, you somehow picked door number 3, which took more time and effort than either of the above options. Again, no need to pick door 3 here. You can let the bus go below 50, it won't explode. For context context, Speed is a movie from 1994 where the main character is on a bus, and if the bus goes below 50 miles per hour, it would explode. A pretty simple concept. Also, the main character is a very young Keanu Reeves, so if you want to go see that, it's a fun movie. Anyway, over to Lina's response. I wanted to keep this private, but apparently it is impossible for me to send 2 emails in a reply to a Linux kernel thread without it ending up all over the news and the entire world speculating about why I'm so upset. No, this is why, right? This right here is the reason why it got posted on Reddit. Why are you so upset? Why? No one knows, because if you wanted to actually keep this private, you would have reached out to Danilo in private. You're like, hey, I don't want this to go on the LKML. Can you fix up the authorship? I know people are going to start drama about this. And you could have just done that. That was an option, but you didn't. You went and made this some, like, big public deal on the LKML, not reading what Danilo was saying, not providing the solution which Danilo fully agreed to from the very beginning. You did this entirely to yourself. There was no reason, absolutely no reason, to keep this going as long as you have. This could have been done in one reply. I would be a lot more willing to work with the kernel community if I hadn't been traumatized by a major Linux kernel maintainer having privately admitted to siding with an abuser and harasser who's attacked me relentlessly for over 1 year now, mocked me for it, using their arguments and wording against me, lying to their peers to cover up actions and collusion against me, and more. Okay, we all feel bad for you, but what does that have to do with the thread that we are talking about right now? What does that have to do with Danilo fully agreeing to change authorship however you want it from the start? Right? Like, stop looking at a negative interaction you had, applying that to the entire community, and then applying that negative perception of the community to a single interaction with one person. That has nothing to do with the authorship thread we're talking about right now. Now, please let me leave this community in peace. You will figure out what to do with my code and whether you care about proper attribution. I just want out. Nobody forced you to come back. You could have just left the patches with Danilo being the primary author if you knew that, you would get angry trying to talk on the mailing list. You didn't have to do any of this. None of this had to happen. You did this yourself, and now it's everybody else's problem. So Lina decided to go and do an actual deep dive. My analysis based on the posted code, since everyone here and everyone on Reddit is forcing me to do it. No one is forcing you to do it. You're an adult. Take responsibility for your own actions. In terms of actual code added, and not just lines rearranged or further commented, I probably wrote at least 75% of this series, and I'm sure Danilo knows this. Having done the refactoring, rearranging, and modification work to get here, Danilo, if you do not take me up on the CC0 offer, I expect you to put my name as primary author on patches 3 through 7. There. All you had to do. Thank you. That is all you had to do from the very start. Now back to Danilo, who rightfully at this point isn't just gonna let this go, who is a little bit annoyed with how this has been handled. First of all, you keep talking as if I would have been resisting to do any changes even though I offer you to change things from the get-go. Instead of taking the offer, you decide to go with wild accusations without even properly looking at things and understanding my intentions. Given that you step back from kernel development, making clear that you don't want to be bothered with it anymore, as you also repeated in this thread, I had to take a decision. Do I keep your primary authorship for commits that I newly create / commit messages I write and code that I substantially change, or do I account for this by changing primary authorship while still giving you credit? The decision I took is clearly reasonable and nothing about it is uncommon. I also want to point out that for this patch, I kept your primary authorship since I took the patch as is with just very minor modifications. However, I understand that you prefer to have primary authorship even if the code has been reorganized in new commits, moved, modified, or rewritten. This really is totally fine for me, and I won't argue about it, even though one could. I do not understand what you're trying to prove here, and especially why. I also do not agree with the above. To me, it looks like it does not account for the cases where code has been moved and modified. Here's the full list of changes for the diff. The sum of the above is clearly not minor. I really don't agree with the fact that you keep accusing me of stealing your code, which I clearly did not. Trust me, I don't need that. And regarding the whole, hey, change me to primary author, I offered this from the get-go, hence I will do so. However, are you really sure you want primary authorship for this patch here, given that DRM device is a full rewrite? Again, linking to this, it was somewhere right here. Here's the full list of the changes from the diff. Now let's go back to Lina, repeatedly offering trivialities as counter-arguments, such as that my initial analysis was incorrect when it wasn't. No, this is a disagreement. This is a disagreement. You can disagree about things. You don't have to have one person being right or the other. Yeah, there's a phrase for this. It's called agree to disagree. Or that an offhand comment I made in my second analysis was more limited in scope than you expected is resisting. Even if you say you will do X, if you keep bringing up reasons why the motivation to do X is flawed, that is resisting in a thinly veiled form. Not resisting would have been to say, sorry, which patches would you like to retain ownership for? I think X, Y makes sense, while Z is mostly new code. He literally did do that. That happened. You... Lina, what are we doing here? Firstly, I hate this, thinly veiled form. No, this is called having a conversation, adding an explanation for why something was done. And the reason why it was done multiple times is because clearly you didn't read it. You didn't see why Danilo did this. And you're interpreting things in the worst possible light. From the start, he was willing to make the changes. Not everything has to be a fight. Not everything has to be someone comes out on top, someone wins. Just move past it. Just have a conversation and work it out, because Danilo was open to it the entire time. I never accused you of anything beyond taking over primary authorship of the patches, which is something you did in fact do. Just because I stepped back doesn't mean you can't send me an email to ask a question to make sure you get upstreaming my code, respecting any wishes for attribution. What is this? What is this right here? You were literally tagged in the email. Also, specifically asking you by name if you want any changes. That happened. You didn't read it. Though given the mess this turned into, as soon as this conversation is over, I'll be sending all kernel-related emails directly to Steve Discard. While a simple question would have been fine and encouraged, this mess is not, and I do not have the time or mental health cycles to deal with any of this going forward. Lina, you are the one who did all of this. Everything that's happened here is your fault. I'm getting really tired of your false accusations. I never accused you of stealing code. I only ever talked about primary authorship. If you're interpreting that as stealing, that is something you are maneuvering yourself into, to use your own words. Danilo was crediting you the entire time. Literally the entire time. The argument was based on primary authorship, right? Like, what is the point of bringing up who is the primary author if you're not accusing him of stealing the credit for your code? Right? Like, come on. I'm not going to play this word game. You know, I know, we all know exactly what you're doing by bringing this up. Especially when he was willing to change it from the start. See, you could have started with that story about DRM device being a more major change than the others and spared us all the blind arguing and wasting of time. Or you could have looked at it and said, I didn't write that. Yeah, okay, well, that's fine then. One more response from Danilo. I'm going to reply on the things that may be relevant for other people too. I don't really care about anything else. You send an email out to me and other people that you'll step back from kernel development, and additionally told people, please feel free to take anything that's useful from my patch submissions or the downstream branches and use it / submit it in any way. But then you say this. However, I understand you prefer to keep primary authorship, even if the code has been reorganized in the new commits, moved, modified, and rewritten. Correct. You say this. To me, this is contradictive, but I think we can agree that it is at least ambiguous. I suggest you reply to your original email and clarify this for other people as well. Otherwise, you may see yourself in the same situation again sooner or later. Also, because this is uncommon, no one expects that. Usually, and that includes me as well, people are much more worried to be misrepresented as the author of stuff that has changed too much from the original code. I can be completely fine to comply with your request and still be convinced with what I went with was reasonable. I even had to point this out, since otherwise it can be read as if I would not be convinced that I did the correct and reasonable thing. Now, I want to leave that thread behind and talk about the additional email Lina left as a reply to the top of the email chain, the original patch set email where Lina is asked, hey, if you want me to fix this, I'll go and fix this. So again, Lina. If you, however, feel uncomfortable with any of the code developed by tags due to the major changes, please let me know. It was brought to my attention that this sentence could be interpreted in more than one way. Can it now? To me, it reads as, if you, however, feel uncomfortable and bothered by their presence with any of the code developed by tags, which credit me, due to the major changes, as in the major changes make me uncomfortable with the tags because it's no longer all / most of my code, please let me know so I can remove them and therefore not credit you as the author at all. A single change, removing a comma, turns it into, if you, however, feel uncomfortable with any of the code developed by tags and bothered by the situation of being listed only as code developed by due to the major changes, which was done that way due to the major changes, please let me know so I can change authorship to you. If you intended the latter interpretation, then I think this is one of those cases where unclear communication leads the conversation and the tone well off the rails. If I had perceived that you were open to promoting me to primary author as opposed to open to demoting me to 0 credit, I would have been a lot less upset about the situation. When I first read through this email chain, you don't know how annoyed reading what Lina wrote made me. Lina, if you, however, feel uncomfortable with any of the code developed by tags due to the major changes, please let me know. Along with every other time that Danilo said, hey, if you want to be primary author, let me know. There is zero way whatsoever to read it like this, unless you're intentionally reading it to get annoyed, to start drama, because no one would read it like that. For the love of God, stop passing on the blame for this drama. No one besides you wanted this drama to happen. No one besides you read that sentence in a negative way. Why would you interpret it in the worst light possible, even after Danilo is saying, hey, I'm happy to make these changes? Now, I'm just gonna say it because I'm just done here, right? I had sympathy for Lina during the whole Rust for Linux stuff, and I understand why Lina got very annoyed with all that and wanted to stop upstreaming stuff into the kernel. That made sense. There were people that were, frankly being really annoying about the Rust stuff, trying to block it at every turn. And initially, I had kernel people disagreeing with me on that, and then eventually, more people kept saying it, and eventually, I was right, but not anymore. Until you realize just how destructive you are being towards people who have shown you nothing but support in this thread, who are willing to accommodate you at every single turn. I don't have any sympathy for you. If you show up in the LKML again and start more drama, if people don't want to deal with you anymore, you've done this to yourself. I said this at the start, but if you see this, Lina, and I'm sure you're going to get angry if you see this, please just take a break from everything online. Go outside, hang out with friends, spend time with your partner. Right now, you are not in any sort of mental state to handle dealing with people in any situation where there could be any level of misinterpretation. You cannot deal with talking to people through text. You are going to misinterpret it in the worst light possible. The more you do this, the more you are going to ruin relationships with people who have previously supported you. And when something bad happens again, like if they don't support you, like you've done this to yourself at this point. For what? Like, frankly, for what? Stirring up new drama after everyone was moving past the Rust for Linux stuff. New drama that never had to happen because nobody in the thread was fighting you. You were fighting yourself. You were fighting a ghost, and that's all. Anyway, I'm sure this won't be the last time. Like, it's as simple as that. So, let me know your thoughts down below. There is a Reddit thread that Lina was commenting in as well. I'll leave that linked in the description if you want to go check that out. It's very mixed. Some people supporting Lina, a lot of people getting very confused about why this thread happened. So, yeah. Anyway, if you like this video, I don't know how long this is going to be, but if you like the video, go like the video. If you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon, subscribe to the Libera Pay, linked in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and like I'm actually being serious. Please just take a holiday.